Welcome back. I think if you follow my other channel, and there's probably not many of you that do, but it's called Razor Ray Special Cuts. I have kind of some side topics that I do over there, and the first one that I chose was this one about the Mossad mind controlling animals. And it was a fun video to make for me. Look, I come from a family. My family is Israeli. I personally, I grew up here in the U.S. I don't really, I served in the army over there, and during the course of serving there, I kind of realized that culturally, I don't really have the same sort of mindset as the people there. It's just that's just my experience. But what we're talking about right now is the Mossad, and again, like the topic of the video that I made, people get really into. I mean, you can see me you can see me here from a few weeks ago, actually just about 10 days ago. So people get obsessed with secret theories about organizations, spy organizations that control various things like the climate. There's claims that the Mossad controls the climate. There's claims that the CIA controls the climate. There's always been theories about various programs that secret agencies have had since of course the Cold War was really when this started to blossom. But this kind of gets a bit sketchy when you try to attribute it to current events. So I'll put the link to this video in the description, or sorry, I'll put it in the comments like everything else. But the fact is that when you have a convenient target, like what's happened with the Christchurch shooting, okay, when you have a convenient target to attribute every single problem in the world to, people really gravitate towards it. And it's apparently on the 26th, which was 2 days ago, you had, and this is the headline. It says, Jews outraged after mosque leader blames Mossad for Christchurch attack. So let's hear the video, and then we'll figure out why exactly, it's not just a matter of outrage.
I will not mince words. I stand here and I say I have a very, very strong suspicion that there is some group behind him, and I am not afraid to say I feel Mossad is behind this.
Is that true? Israel's behind it!
Clip, and apparently this mosque leader, Ahmed Bamji, gave a speech questioning where the gunman got his funding from. He said he suspected it came from, quote, Mossad and, quote, Zionist business. Mossad is the foreign intelligence agency of Israel responsible for covert operations, intelligence gathering, and counterterrorism. He said, I really want to say one thing today. Do you think this guy was alone? I want to ask you, where did he get the funding from? He can be heard saying in the video footage. I stand here and I say I have a very strong suspicion that there is some group behind him, and I'm not afraid to say I feel the Mossad is behind this. One person can be heard shouting in support. It's the truth. Israel is behind this. That's right. A video of the speech was posted to Twitter where it caused outrage in the Jewish community. So I think this might be a longer clip, so let's hear that.
I will not mince words. I stand here and I say I have a very, very strong suspicion that there is some group behind him, and I am not afraid to say I feel Mossad is behind this.
Is that true? Israel's behind it! That's right!
So then there was a reaction. These conspiracy theories are dangerous lies. They put the Jewish community at risk at a time of heightened security concerns. New Zealand Jewish Council spokesperson Juliet Moses told NewsHub. So NewsHub, I guess, is kind of a site in New Zealand that's maybe a news aggregator. Conspiracy theories, particularly the idea that Jews, whether through the Jewish state or otherwise, are a malevolent controlling force in the world, are at the very core of anti-Semitism. Several attendees at the event have already called out the event, saying they were disappointed by some of the hate rhetoric Yeah, I guess the thing is, some people who want to, progressive people, they want to come out and support minorities that, end up, in this case, being victimized, obviously, and, murdered. In this case, in a very, abhorrent act. So they want to come out, give their support for people that were killed, and they're not there in order to necessarily defame a different group of people. So some people, I think that divides really the audience. There's some people that would obviously, whether they are members of the Muslim community or simply progressive supporters, they may actually believe in this because of the reputation and historical reach of the Mossad. It says the speaker talking about Mossad conspiracy theories already left me speechless, one person wrote on the event's Facebook page. Mentioning Mossad was deeply disappointing and pretty racist, another person said. So this is something, I don't think necessarily that it's a race issue, but here let's see. NewsHub apparently contacted Bomji, who accused NewsHub of singling him out. I made a statement. A lot of other people made statements, he said. So that's not the mark of a leader. This is a person who was, what was his position again? It says that he was chairman of the Mount Roskill Masjid-e-Umar. So this is a person who is in a leadership position within the community. It doesn't matter if he says, well, I made a statement and a lot of other people made statements. Well, you came there because, and you were given the podium due to your standing within the community that was targeted. So yeah, people can inquire as to why you're making a criticism of something that there's no source indicating that it has a connection to the event. Bomji defended his speech, saying an inquiry is needed into where the alleged gunman got his money from. He didn't offer any proof to his speculation Mossad had funded the alleged gunman. Mossad is up to all these things, he said. When I talk about Mossad, why should the Jews be upset about it? Give me an answer. So this is the classic statement of somebody who is basically trying to exploit an event in order to push their own worldview. And it's probably not only people saying things like this. There were a lot of people who were trying to point towards past associations with one of the mosques that was targeted in the event, where there were people who ended up being radicalized and going and joining either, I think it was either ISIS or Al Qaeda. But the issue here is the proof. Okay, when you make accusations without proof, then whether it's a racism issue, whether it's, we've talked a lot on this channel about the presumption of innocence. When people are accused of something that they, could ruin their career, could ruin their life, could put them in prison, could take away their, could ruin their marriage also. Think about all the different ways that lies and defamation can affect an individual. And then you can magnify that on a global scale when you're talking about an organization or a group of people, or it's kind of a difficult it's a difficult frontier to delineate when you're talking about the free speech debate. And I'm certainly somebody, I've tried to stand up for freedom of speech on this channel. I hope that I've been consistent. That's my aim. That's the aim of a lot of people within the YouTube community who are supporters of that. It's not always easy, because you sometimes you see people who say things that you find just either are directly trying to provoke you, or are simply, they do offend your sensibilities. I just watched a video with Owen Benjamin where he was he made a legitimate point, but he was using it as a joke. He was making the point that Jewish people were objecting to his comedy stylings about Jews because he felt that the tone was dismissive. And then he brought up, rightly so, there were some pretty horrible jokes made against Christians and Jesus himself by Jewish comedians Larry David and Sarah Silverman. But the problem is that just because I think So I legitimately think that the jokes that were made by Sarah Silverman and Larry David were in horrible taste, and they weren't funny to me, even when Larry David made them. And I like a lot of Larry David's show and everything, but it's disgusting what people like him and Sarah Silverman do, and they think they're being funny and edgy by attacking Christians, and then Owen Benjamin can turn it around and basically say, well, how do you like them apples? And then he made a video where he peed on a $10 bill, like he was trying to say that the Jews worship money. So yeah, that's not that's not a very friendly act by Owen Benjamin, to put it very lightly. But the point was made. It's not the most diplomatic way of making it, but I mean it's hard for me to condemn somebody for making a racist joke when we're actually talking about libelous claims here, potentially libelous claims. Now let's play devil's advocate here. Is there a problem of Mossad infiltration in New Zealand? Well, in 2011, there was this story that came out that I am sure was pretty big news over there, but it did make the world news, and this is from CBS. In 2011, there was an earthquake in New Zealand on February 22nd. 3 Israelis died in the quake that killed 181 people. Other Israelis escaped the quake. The Fairfax newspaper group, which didn't state how it obtained the information, said one of the Israelis who died was carrying at least 5 passports. Fairfax said New Zealand Prime Minister John Key took 4 calls from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu following the quake, and that an unaccredited Israeli search and rescue squad searched a cordon area in Christchurch. Searching a cordon area in Christchurch was stopped by New Zealand officers. Key, who is traveling in California, told media Wednesday that it wasn't in the national interest to comment about the report. The revelation has caused a bit of a political kerfuffle as opposition party leaders have begun directing pointed public questions at the prime minister. Were these young people really just backpackers, or had an innocent group of tourists been infiltrated by Mossad, quote, helpers whose mission it was to take Kiwi identities? If it was the latter, why hasn't the opposition been briefed by the prime minister? What information is he withholding, and why? Asked Labour's foreign affairs spokesperson Marion Street, according to the New Zealand Herald. In 2004, there was a bit of a dust-up between Israel and New Zealand over an Israeli passport ring uncovered in New Zealand. 2 Israelis were arrested for trying to fraudulently acquire the identity of a man with cerebral palsy. Yeah, that's scummy. Contacts between Israel and New Zealand were frozen at a high level until the Jewish state apologized. It was also discovered at the time that similar such instances had happened previously, the Herald reports. So, look, I think that when a spy ring gets exposed, they only, the country that's operating it only has itself to blame. Espionage is a crime, okay? And it doesn't matter if that, the circumstances can be justified with all sorts of semantics, and we needed it, and it was national security. If your spy gets exposed and they ended up getting convicted in a court of law, there's nobody to blame except for A, the spy, and B, the people that are operating the espionage ring. And I think that it's really, they actually laid the groundwork for people to be able to accuse them of various sorts of shady things. Now, granted that I've already gone over the fact that the Mossad apparently, this isn't confirmed, but apparently there is evidence that Israeli intelligence had been operating in New Zealand in the past. The idea that you can attribute the Christchurch shooter to being an operative of such a spy ring is kind of ridiculous, because you have to. This is a problem. Okay, yesterday I was having an argument with somebody over a different issue that was given to a lot of conjecture over whether the CIA had kind of pumped illegal drugs into California, and the real into Southern California rather, into the ghetto, specifically the crack epidemic. This is the Dark Alliance, I think is what it was called. Gary Webb. These were accusations made in the 90s through Freeway Rick Ross, and I might at some point delve into that a little deeper on a different video or something, probably for the Razor Ray channel as well. But the fact of the matter is this, that yes, you do have very suspicious things often happening that could have tangential leads that connect them to somebody else. Okay, there's always these rumors. For example, there's urban legends that abound that Cat Stevens is Jewish, for example, when in reality he's not Jewish. He happens to have converted to Islam, and he was also born into a Greek Orthodox family. His family is from Cyprus, which makes it all the more ironic that he converted to Islam, given that the Greek Cypriots are deeply in conflict with the Muslim Turks over there. So, yeah, I think that this is certainly a case of similar weird. It's the same weird attitude that you get when people see something happen. It's a huge tragedy, and one person takes out of it something where they can say, look, it can't be just as simple that this guy had his own agenda, his own dark ideas and everything. It had to be connected to fill in the blank, the Vatican, the Freemasons, the Jews, the Mossad, whatever. That's the way a lot of these people think when they're reacting to incidents like this. And I'm not against people shouting out conspiracy theories. Unfortunately, were this person to be in the U.S., he'd be able to say this, and there is no repercussion for him in the court of law. And I don't intend to have that law change. I think that the First Amendment is still the bedrock of our society, along with the rest of the Bill of Rights. That being said, when you throw out rash accusations of things, often the worst thing that the world can do is to kind of give you, more ammo to spread it. Now, a lot of you are probably tired of hearing about Jordan Peterson, but the reason Jordan Peterson keeps making the news is not because his ideas are necessarily amazing or groundbreaking or anything. I read his book. I actually put a review of his book up on this channel, and I didn't find his book to be terribly amazing. It was a pretty good book, and he has a very dignified writing style, but I didn't think that it was a book that really changed my life the way that some of his real fans do. So the reason Jordan Peterson keeps making the news is, for example, his book was apparently banned from Whitcoulls, which is the largest bookstore in New Zealand, for a few days after the terror attack in Christchurch. So the idea that the answer to a mass shooting against a few Muslim places of worship is to ban a book by a psychologist who himself is against extremism, against religious bigotry, who is largely about, kind of restoring a little more of a social morality into the world. Clean up your own house before you tell other people what to do. Those are ideas. Granted, they might be hokey, and he's not exactly. There's plenty of criticisms of Jordan Peterson that I think people within the psychology world say, because there's his approach to child discipline and things like that. I get it. He's not above criticism, but this idea that the answer to a mass shooting is to censor the book of a psychologist, okay, an academic. And by the way, I am reading his other book, which is a little more dense and about more symbolism and the way myth deals with the way people want to explain the world. So when we censor things that are more of a rational nature, why do you get surprised when people turn to all sorts of more, extraordinary theories such as that the Mossad committed the terror attack? After all, we're talking about cracking down on hate speech all the time. They banned culture of critique on Amazon, for example. I don't think that I would enjoy reading culture of critique because it does have kind of a dim view of world of the world of Judaism, from the rest of the world's perspective. But by banning it, you actually give more attention to it. That's ironically what James Alsop is really succeeding at. James Alsop is kind of more of a white identitarian now. He used to be a little more of a mainstream conservative, and he's steadily moved further and further to, the identitarian right. So they are latching onto this because people tell them not to talk about it. That's why they go into it. And then you have so this is from USA Today. They're talking about New Zealanders are debating the limits of free speech after their chief censor banned the 74-page manifesto written and released by the man accused of slaughtering 50 people at 2 mosques in the city of Christchurch. So let me understand this. In the wake of the shooting, you are banning not only the book of somebody who has nothing to do with the shooting, which is Jordan Peterson. Not only that, but you're also banning the manifesto of the shooter themselves. So people who are going to be reading this that are not necessarily totally connected to the story, they're going to infer from this that they banned one thing and they banned another thing. Could they be connected? That's the whole problem. In reality, there's nothing in common between what the 74-page manifesto said and what Jordan Peterson was saying. The guy was very much, he was probably, his theories are probably embraced by, a very small element of even the quote unquote far right identitarian community, because he was talking about being an eco-fascist and things. Eco-fascism, what the hell does that even mean? So take that for what it's worth. There's also the issue of the Women's March being involved in this. So the Women's March is headed by 4 women. Tamika Mallory, who is the black woman, Carmen Perez, who is I think she's Dominican, I'm not sure, and Linda Sarsour, who is the most famous face of it, who's a Muslim Palestinian from Brooklyn. She's always quick to remind people that she's from Brooklyn. So, and then there's one more person whose name is Bob Bland, or she goes by the name Bob Bland, but that's not her real name. Anyway, so she put out this tweet that said that retweeted this guy Jesse Rabinowitz, that said the same language and hate that folks spew against sisters Linda Sarsour and Ilhan Omar killed 54 Muslims in New Zealand. You can't stand in solidarity with the Muslim community and simultaneously disavow Muslim women for speaking their truths. American Jewish establishment, I'm looking at you. So this is a person on the far left who is, Jesse Rabinowitz, I'm assuming, would be Jewish. And they're blaming the New Zealand attack on American critics of Linda Sarsour and Ilhan Omar. Now, think about that logic. By the same token, I can blame the violence in India by Muslim, separatists and as well as jihadists against the Indian police, against Indian civilians. Hotel Mumbai just came out. I can blame things like that on people like Linda Sarsour and Ilhan Omar spouting, very extremist language here, talking about they're talking about the need to do jihad. Now they keep saying, well, you're just illiterate. You don't understand that there's a such thing as the the greater jihad, which is internal or whatever. No, it doesn't matter, because when you're talking about weaponizing language, right? The term jihad has already been weaponized by jihadist groups. So now that you're using it in a context that other people use in an aggressive manner, then why can't we come after you? Why can't we say that this is an issue that you are using in order to incite violence? That's the real issue with language here. We're talking about people that are obsessed with identity, obsessed with finding scapegoats for violence that is happening around them, and they're not really looking to get closure and healing out of it. They're looking to to join together this new mob of people that will act against the enemy that they have found, against the exterior force that they see attacking their own reality. That's really the problem with theories like the type that this guy was talking about in New Zealand, where he doesn't have any evidence, but he says, well, the Mossad does all sorts of weird crap here all the time in New Zealand. Doesn't it logically follow that they were behind this? No, you cannot make an accusation without evidence and then get surprised when people call you out on it. That's about it. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, comment. Also, this will be available on BitChute. You can subscribe to me on Gab and on Minds.com, and I'll also put the link to the other video for my second channel in the comments. Have a great night. I'll talk to you later.